The .NET Framework is a development platform for building apps for Windows, Windows Phones, Windows Server and Microsoft Azure. It consists of the Common Language Runtime and the .NET Framework class library, which includes classes, interfaces and value types that support an extensive range of technologies. The .NET Framework provides a managed execution environment, simplified development and deployment, and integration with a variety of programming languages, including Visual Basic and Visual C#. A framework in programming terms is really a collection of application programming interfaces, or APIs, and a shared library of code that developers can call when developing applications, so they don't have to write the code from scratch. In the .NET Framework, that library of shared code is named the Framework Class Library, or FCL. The bits of code in the shared library can perform all kinds of different functions. The .NET Framework contains tens of thousands of pieces of shared code. This shared code makes the lives of developers much easier because they don't have to reinvent the wheel every time their applications need to perform some common function. So why is the name .NET Framework a bit of a misnomer? Because in addition to serving as a framework of shared code, .NET also provides a runtime environment for applications. A runtime environment provides a virtual machine-like sandbox in which applications run. In the .NET world, the runtime environment is named the Common Language Runtime, or CLR. When a user runs an application, the code for that application is actually compiled into machine code at runtime and then executed. Compilers and tools expose the Common Language Runtime's functionality and enable you to write code that benefits from this managed execution environment. Code that you develop with a language compiler that targets the runtime is called managed code. It benefits from features such as cross-language integration, cross-language exception handling, enhanced security, versioning and deployment support. A simplified model for component interaction and debugging and profiling services. The runtime provides the following benefits: performance improvements, the ability to easily use components developed in other languages, extensible types provided by a class library, language features such as inheritance, interfaces and overloading for object-oriented programming, support for explicit free threading that allows creation of multi-threaded scalable applications, support for structured exception handling, support for custom attributes, garbage collection, and the use of delegates instead of function pointers for increased type safety and security. So how does .NET get on my system? Typically, the newest version of .NET is already available and will be included in the release of each version of Windows. There were essentially three ways that any particular version of the .NET Framework would get installed. Your version of Windows might have it included in the default installation. An application that required a particular version might install it during its own installation, and some applications would even send you to a separate download site to grab and install a particular version of the .NET Framework. When Windows 8 rolled around, a new, completely redesigned .NET Framework version 4 came with it. Windows 8 and Windows 10 include versions 3.5 and version 4, the current version right now being 4.6.2. Essentially, anything written for .NET 3.5 and below will run on .NET 3.5, and anything written after .NET 4 will require the specific version it was compiled against. It's been years in the making, but Microsoft has finally released its open source .NET Core, essentially a stripped down version of the company's full-blown .NET framework. .NET Core, however, is cross-platform, available on Windows, OS X and Linux, making it easier for developers to use .NET for apps on different devices. In the past, different versions of .NET for different platforms didn't have shared functionality for key tasks such as reading local files. .NET Core aims to ameliorate this with its open source cross-platform approach. ASP.NET Core provides an optimized development framework for web apps that are deployed in the cloud or on-premise. This doesn't mean you can just ditch the .NET and ASP.NET frameworks, as the core offering only contains a limited number of functions from them. .NET and ASP.NET frameworks will continue to be relevant to the existing workloads.